Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Breeyn Mack, and I'm the Senior Director of Educational Content here at Teaching Strategies. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to present today's topic, introducing the creative curriculum for family childcare. Before I begin, though, it's a good time to review some of the technical aspects of the presentation. You'll want to take a moment to check the audio setting on your computer, as well as your speaker volume setting if you're having any trouble with the audio. We've also set aside some time at the end of today's call to answer as many of the questions that we can. To submit a question during the webinar, please type them in the question and answer box located on the right side of your screen. A common question we get is whether we offer certificates of participation or continuing education credits for these webinars. And unfortunately, the answer to that question is no. But an on-demand archive of today's presentation will be available within the next couple of weeks, at which time you'll receive an email with a link and instructions on how to access this archive. All right, so let's get started. Family childcare providers like you offer children and families such an incredibly important and incomparable service. You open your homes, you offer safe, nurturing, loving, and educational experiences where children build relationships with you and the other children in your care. And all of this is happening, though, within a unique home-based environment. You engage with and care for children during the period of their life when the greatest amount of development occurs. Each day, you plan activities that support children's progress across all areas of development and learning, while at the same time helping them build a strong foundation for their future success in school and in life. You also play a critical role as a trusted partner for families who are sometimes leaving their child for the first time with someone who is not a family member. It's a huge responsibility. And the relationships that you develop with families is such a critical aspect of the work you do. The partnerships that you build with families, along with the knowledge that their children are in capable, loving hands, is what gives them the confidence and freedom to go back to work. I know as a new mom myself, I have an even deeper understanding now of the power of what these relationships are. Your needs as a family childcare provider are unique, and you need resources that support the work that you do. That's why we're delighted to be bringing family childcare providers for the first time a comprehensive, research-based, developmentally appropriate approach to learning that builds upon the natural curiosity of the children in your program, while taking into consideration the many facets that make up the reality of what a day in the life looks like in a family childcare program. The creative curriculum for family childcare explains how to offer a high-quality program that meets the standards established by the National Association for Family Childcare, while at the same time addressing all state early learning standards for children birth through third grade. Our curriculum really describes the what, why, how, when, and where of providing care and education for children from birth to age 12 in your home. Through foundational guidance and daily resources, which we'll take a look at today, the creative curriculum for family childcare provides all of the support that you need to implement a high-quality program for your children and families. As a family child care provider, you often care for a wide range of ages, spanning from infants to school-age children. It was really important to us to provide a comprehensive curriculum with resources that give you research-based insight into how children of all ages develop and learn, and then strategies for implementing developmentally appropriate practice in a mixed-age setting. As you well know, being a family child care provider can be incredibly rewarding, but it can also be challenging at the same time. So I'd like to start by asking you to share some of the challenges that you face as a family child care provider. So you'll see a question and answer box on webinar navigation panel. So take a minute and just jot some thoughts in there in the question and answer box of what are some of the current challenges that you're facing as a family child care provider. While you're submitting your responses and thinking about that for a minute, I'll share a challenge that a colleague of mine recently shared from when she was a family child care provider. When we were thinking about supporting this population of educators, she shared that when she was a provider, she really struggled with the fact that she was often the only adult in the home. She had a diverse group of children and families to support of multiple ages, and sometimes she really craved just having another teaching partner. She was jealous of her colleagues in the field that worked in a center-based program and had regular interactions throughout the day with other teachers, and she struggled with how to get that support and balance that she needed with other adults. as a family childcare provider for over 14 years, she was often wondering in her own head if she was meeting the needs of each child in the program. She struggled with thinking of the kinds of experiences she should be offering. What was developmentally appropriate? What were the children's skills and abilities? And how could she effectively partner with their families? She struggled with not having a teacher partner, but then also not having a comprehensive curriculum to support her work. She was left to piece together a lot of these different pieces, and she wasn't always confident that she was providing the highest quality experiences for every child. And you've likely been there and faced the challenges of having a toddler in your care who's just discovered how to climb up and is very excited about that at the same time that you have preschool age children who are interested in exploring new tools like scissors and staplers and staple removers. Well, how do you keep that toddler engaged while still observing and supporting the preschool children that are working at your kitchen table with these new tools, when all that toddler wants to do is climb up on the chair and be part of the work that's happening? Even when situations like this are challenging, this is really the beauty of family childcare, right? Young children learning from older children, and then older children beginning to understand how to care for those younger children. So let me share some of the responses that we got from those of you on the phone. Struggling with that visibility into assessment resources and understanding the role that plays in curriculum. Looking at a family child care program that actually is center-based and wanting some support to provide guidance there. Several of you have mentioned planning for multiple age groups with lots of exclamation points. So absolutely, that's a common thread that I'm seeing through here, balancing the different ages and then not having enough materials, it's looking like, to really engage those different ages. I'm also seeing here some frustrations and confusion sometimes of really setting up that physical environment. So thank you for sharing those. And it's interesting to see so many of the commonalities. Someone just put time too, right? Sometimes that's just, I feel like educators across the board would probably share that as a challenge. But as a family childcare provider, when you're the only adult in this space and you're the everything all day, and time is even that much more critical there. So thank you for sharing those, and hopefully we can address some of those challenges as we look through our resources. There are a lot of unique challenges that you as family childcare providers face each day, from, as we mentioned, balancing the needs of different age groups to managing your time when you have so many competing demands throughout the day. To do this work, you need access to the latest research, theories around child development, and then strategies to implement the work that you're reading. And you need to be able to create a nurturing and developmentally appropriate program for all of the children in your care, including those multiple age groups. The Creative Curriculum for Family Childcare Foundation volumes are the resources that provide this framework and help you learn and refine best practices for creating that vibrant, high-quality, welcoming program for the children and families that you serve. So we're going to take a few minutes to look at each of the foundation volumes and talk briefly about what they offer. So volume 1, the foundation, is just that. It provides the foundational information that you need to create a high-quality program in your home. Rich theory and research are woven throughout this volume. It's actually woven throughout all of our volumes. But this volume is organized around a curricular framework made up of 5 components that help you make informed decisions about the many aspects of your program. The foundation really helps you answer the questions: how are the children in your program developing and learning? What does a responsive environment look like? What are the children learning in your program? When we think about caring and teaching, what does that look like? How do we build those strong relationships with our families? Volume 2, Routines and Experiences, applies to the components of the creative curriculum when we think about those routines and experiences that we offer throughout the day. Each chapter in this volume describes materials that enhance children's learning during everyday routines, such as hellos and goodbyes, diapering and toileting, eating and meal times, sleeping and nap time, as well as getting dressed. This volume is also going to support our knowledge of experiences that you regularly plan for, including playing with blocks, dramatic play, creating with art, toys and games, enjoying stories and books, exploring sand and water, discovery, connecting with music and movement, tasting and preparing food, technology, and going outdoors. This volume explains how, through daily routines and experiences, we're providing meaningful opportunities to build relationships with children that promote not only trust and autonomy, but also rich opportunities for development in the content areas as well. Volume 3, Objectives for Development and Learning, describes the 38 learning objectives that form the basis of the creative curriculum, as well as Gold by Teaching Strategies, which is our formative observation-based assessment tool, which many of you may already be familiar with. These objectives, spanning development from birth through third grade, are highly predictive of future school success and are based on an extensive review of the latest research and professional literature in early childhood education. Volume 3 examines the research behind each objective's progression of development and learning and offers you practical teaching and caregiving strategies for promoting children's development with regard to each objective. Aligned with state early learning standards and Head Start performance standards, the objectives outline 9 areas of development and learning that are necessary for supporting the whole child, and also include a 10th area that addresses English language acquisition for supporting our dual language learners. There are 4 developmental areas: social, emotional, physical, language, and cognitive, and 5 areas that describe the content learning of literacy, mathematics, science, technology, social studies, and the arts. As you may be aware, at Teaching Strategies, we've recently expanded our progressions of development and learning. The focus in recent years, really on kind of P to 3 systems, prenatal to third grade systems, highlights the importance of the first 8 years of a child's life for future school success and the need for partnership amongst early childhood educators. The expansion of the Gold progressions through third grade gives providers, families, and stakeholders the ability to see the big picture of early childhood development, as well as the widely held expectations for children at each stage of development and learning, birth through third grade. This change was informed by national trends, professional association recommendations, state and national standards, and honestly, relevant professional literature and current and classical research. It was important to us that we provided the field with a comprehensive view of children's development that spanned the entirety of early childhood, birth through third grade. During these early childhood years, we as educators are providing children with experiences to build a strong educational foundation. So with our expanded progressions in place, we decided to take this knowledge and offer providers the resources and support they needed to differentiate learning for all children, while engaging them in fascinating and developmentally appropriate learning experiences. So while the foundation volumes that we just looked at really provide the what and why, you also need to know the how as an educator. While research, theory, and best practice are critically important to refining our work as educators, we also need daily resources that support us in delivering high-quality experiences throughout our everyday interactions. You need to plan for daily activities and experiences that put this theory and best practice into action. And this is where the Creative Curriculum for Family Childcare daily resources come in. When you're working with a diverse group of ages, it can be challenging to ensure that you're providing individualized experiences responsive to each child's strengths, needs, and interests. What activities are going to engage an active toddler focused on gross motor development, while at the same time supporting the language development of a highly verbal 2-year-old? What activities can help you build a strong sense of community in your program? The Creative Curriculum for Family Childcare daily resources link information about children's knowledge, skills, and abilities to learning opportunities. In other words, the daily resources provide step-by-step guidance in the form of daily teaching tools that help you as providers plan and manage every moment of your day. So let's take a closer look at the daily resources that are included in the Creative Curriculum for Family Childcare and how you can use them to individually meet the needs of the children in your program. Let's start with intentional teaching cards. These activities are designed for infants through preschool age children, which is notated by an indicator at the bottom of each card. And these intentional teaching cards support all areas of development and learning, including those developmental areas and content areas we talked about earlier: social, emotional, physical, language development, as well as content skills and literacy and mathematics. Rooted in the objectives for development and learning that we just reviewed, Each of these 151 intentional teaching cards provide you with step-by-step guidance on how to implement the activity in your program, with suggestions for including all children and questions to guide your observation for children's knowledge, skills, and abilities as they engage in the experience, so you can continue to gather additional information about each child's development. Many of the activities are appropriate for small group time, while others are absolutely intended to be done in large group, outdoors, or even one-on-one with a child. We as educators know that planning for each individual child can be time consuming, right? Time was one of the experiences that many of you offered as a challenge. I think all educators struggle with this, right? But as family childcare providers, there's this whole other level of complexity to individualizing, because many of you have to differentiate these experiences across a diverse group of ages. You likely spend hours ensuring that the experiences you're offering are developmentally appropriate for each group, and that you're prepared with open-ended questions and materials that are going to extend children's knowledge while keeping them challenged in ways that doesn't cause frustration or boredom. Well, with intentional teaching cards, this work is really done for you within the color-coded teaching sequence found in the bottom of each intentional teaching card. The color-coded teaching sequence provides guidance for differentiating instruction for every activity. At the very moment when you need it, you'll have the developmentally appropriate language that you need to modify or adapt the experience based on the needs and abilities of each child within your program. With the embedded teaching sequence, the differentiation process is already completed. This will save you time while planning and ensure that you have the guidance you need to meet each child where they are and build on their strengths. The teaching sequence helps you ensure that each child in your care is having a meaningful experience with the same activity. So if I have children's skills who are aligned here at the green color band, and another child whose skills are at the blue color band, I don't have to take the time to create two different experiences to meet each of those children where they are, but rather I can engage them in the same experience and just differentiate the open-ended questions that I'm offering so they're both getting a meaningful experience. The teaching sequence ensures that they're having this meaningful experience, even when children's skills are at different places along the developmental progression. For the primary objective listed in the activity, each of them is getting a meaningful interaction that scaffolds their development. For those of you supporting children that speak Spanish, I also want to point out that the intentional teaching cards have the activity written in English on one side and Spanish on the other. This can be an invaluable resource as you plan activities to support children's home language development, as well as their acquisition of English. Whether you speak Spanish, English, or both, the Including All Children section of each intentional teaching card provides strategies that can help children who are English language learners actively participate in each experience. Additionally, the Including All Children section also offers strategies and accommodations for supporting children with disabilities. Additionally, each intentional teaching card also highlights an associated learning game to help reinforce that important home-to-program connection. Learning games are a series of award-winning, research-validated early learning activities that are engaging for children and extend their learning at home. While the activities were intentionally developed to share with families, you may also find them useful in your daily plans to implement as well. Each learning game activity shows everyday interactions with children lead to positive relationships and meaningful learning. A set of 200 learning games are offered as part of the creative curriculum for family childcare, and again, can be accessed through my teaching strategies for easy sharing with families. In addition to individualizing instruction, the other times of day that we see providers struggle with the most are transitions. With 8 children in your program, let's say, ranging from 6 weeks old to kindergarten, just getting everyone ready to go outside can be a huge undertaking, and a transition that could take many, many minutes, especially in the winter, colder months. It can be challenging to keep children engaged as you make sure that everyone's dressed and ready to go outdoors. Singing, we all know, is a proven strategy to keep all the children in your care engaged, but oftentimes we find ourselves relying on those same old handful of songs. Mighty Minutes are a collection of songs, chants, rhymes, games, and short activities that are designed to help in transitions like this. Each Mighty Minute includes the name of the activity number, the objectives, both the primary objective as well as the related objective that's associated with activity, and then the steps of what you do. On the back of each card are then suggestions for modifying or extending the activity. So Mighty Minutes are rooted in the objectives for development and learning that we looked at earlier, so that you know that even in these short, fun activities, that you're meaningfully supporting children's development and learning across all areas of development and learning. In addition to supporting transitions with many children in your program at once, Mighty Minutes were also designed for ensuring those one-on-one moments are nurturing for the children in your program. So for instance, think about putting 10-month-old Nancy down for her nap. You'll want to find a comfortable spot to snuggle with her as you share with her the poem Mighty Minutes Tend to Dream. This poem allows you to have a meaningful and loving connection with Nancy before she lays down to rest. Many of our Mighty Minutes feature these soothing songs, poems, and rhymes that will assist you in helping children relax and transition into nap time. But Mighty Minutes aren't just for nap time. They can be used during any routine experience or transition throughout the day. We all know that cleanup time is not always very fun for the children in your program sometimes. To make this time more fun and engaging and content rich, you can also use Mighty Minutes 12 Time to Clean Up and invite children to sing a song as they clean up together. The 100 Mighty Minutes help you intentionally promote language, literacy, math, science, social studies, and physical skills during those in-between times, such as when preparing to go outside or when gathering children for a read aloud. Mighty Minutes are currently available in English only, but will soon be offered in Spanish as well. Because the activities are short, fun, and interactive, they're perfect for encouraging development in both languages. You can use Mighty Minutes throughout the day to maximize learning time, and you may opt to do some in English and others in Spanish. However, it's best to avoid doing the activity in both languages during the same period, because then the activity will run longer than intended, and children may also tune out the less familiar language. So now let's take a look at some of the literacy resources that are offered in the curriculum. Well, you probably already have a really rich library of books in your home that engage different ages. We did want to provide some literature to add to your collection in ways that would support you with teacher-facing guidance to help deliver the highest quality reading experiences with the children in your care. So let's start with the children's book collection. Curated for your preschool age children, these books and their associated book discussion cards support you in providing enjoyable, repeated read-alouds that are an essential component of your daily plans with preschool children. Research has shown that preschool-age children are ready for more comprehensive reading experiences. To help make the most of read-aloud experiences, the Creative Curriculum for Family Childcare includes 5 book discussion cards that correspond to selected books in the children's book collection. The collection features 15 classics and new favorites that have complex storylines, rich social-emotional themes, and robust vocabulary that help set the stage for meaningful conversations with children. Book discussion cards are quick reference guides that help providers introduce each book, introduce and emphasize vocabulary, and engage children in analytical book discussions. Each book discussion card has 3 fold-out panels. The front cover features the name of the book and a brief summary of the story and the card number. On the inside of the card, each panel offers ideas for the first read aloud, where we're introducing the main characters and main story problems and introducing that vocabulary critical to understanding the story. The second read aloud, where we introduce the secondary characters, talk about their motivations, reinforce vocabulary from the first read aloud, and introduce new vocabulary. And then our third read aloud, where children are actually reconstructing that story back for us. Research has shown that read-alouds are most effective when children are actively involved in complex storybooks and when they have the opportunity to engage with the story a minimum of 3 times. Each time the story is read aloud, it's with a different purpose, encouraging children to explore the story more deeply. This technique has been shown to increase children's engagement, understanding, and appreciation of stories. The book discussion card provides guidance for what to do before reading, while reading, and after reading for each read aloud. With each read aloud, you'll be encouraging the children to think more critically about the story and the characters, asking them to recall important information about the story from the previous reading, thus helping to build their comprehension and deeper understanding of the story as a whole, but also of the characters, their motivations, and their feelings. The more familiar they are with the story, they're more likely that they'll want to read it on their own. If you flip the card over, you'll find a section dedicated to vocabulary words that are in the book and essential to the story, but may not be words that children use in their everyday conversations. The vocabulary section defines these words not with formal dictionary definitions, but with developmentally appropriate definitions for younger children. The next panel features ideas for supporting social emotional development by asking questions about the characters' feelings and what children might do if they found themselves in a similar situation. Across all three read-alouds, the book discussion cards will ensure that children are engaging in meaningful language and literacy experiences while still exploring and building upon social emotional concepts. The last daily resource that we'll explore are book conversation cards. There are two types of book conversation cards included in the curriculum. A set that is paired with Highlights Hello, designed for infants, toddlers, and twos, and another set with Highlights High Five Bilingue, which is designed for preschool and kindergarten age children. For infants, toddlers, and twos, book conversation cards are paired with 24 Highlights Hello books. Highlights Hello is a publication with stories, poetry, songs, and simple puzzles for very young children to enjoy with adults. Every issue of Highlights Hello is made of safe, sanitizable, you know how important that is, and durable material that contains 5 unique literacy experiences. To become lifelong readers, our youngest learners need to be engaged daily with warm and engaging interactions with books. Book conversation cards include differentiated guidance for interacting with young infants, mobile infants, toddlers, and 2-year-olds during read-alouds. The cards provide detailed information to help caregivers share the vocabulary, illustrations, and activities found within each section of Highlights Hello, and to share them in ways that will be meaningful for children at different ages. Next, let's take a look at Highlights High Five Bilingue, which supports the language and literacy development of preschool-age children, including those who are English language learners, children who are learning Spanish as a second language, and children who only speak English. Engaging poems, chants, stories, puzzles, activities, and games are presented in these issues in both English and Spanish. Every Highlights High Five Bilingue is paired with a book conversation card. These cards are intended to serve as a quick reference as providers read Highlights High Five Bilingue with individual or small groups of children. The cards offer for suggestions for introducing the experience, emphasizing the vocabulary, commenting on stories and illustrations, and then asking questions. Since Highlights High Five Bilingue are written in both English and Spanish, book conversation cards give you strategies for promoting children's comprehension, recall, and vocabulary development through book reading in both English and Spanish. If children's first language is Spanish and you speak it, the first reading of the book should be in that language. This will aid children's comprehension of the story and introduce new words in their first language. The next time you read the book, it should be read in English. This is the first time children will hear the book in English, so you'll want to follow the guidance on the book conversation card for the first read aloud. Now that we've explored the foundation volumes and the daily resources, let's take a look at what this might look like on a typical day. So imagine your day starts snuggled up on the couch with 8-month-old Savannah, who is the first child to arrive at 6:30 a.m. Savannah and you sit on the couch and read a Highlights Hello book. You then place Savannah on the floor with some developmentally appropriate toys and talk with her about what she's doing as you prepare to greet the other children on their way. As 3-year-old Tyler arrives, who you've been working with lately in supporting his speech delay, when he arrives, you invite him to help you with setting the breakfast table, while the two of you practice repeating simple terms as you complete the task. While eating breakfast, you implement the social, emotional, intentional teaching card, Playful Routines, which encourages Tyler to engage in meaningful conversations with you that are individualized to help support his specific speech skills. As Miranda, who attends elementary school, and Tony, who's a 15-month-old, arrives, you use Mighty Minute 61 traffic jam to get everyone ready and out the door to walk Miranda to the bus stop. After 4-year-old Colleen and 2-year-olds Brett and Amanda arrive, you have an outdoor activity planned, using the mathematics intentional teaching card, Buried Shapes. Following the guidance of the teaching sequence, you bury three-dimensional shapes in the sand for the younger children. And then for your 3 or 4-year-olds, you also bury a few numbers and some of the letters found in their names. As you transition the children back inside using another Mighty Minute, it's time to prepare everyone for choice time. As the younger children are engaged in play, you have a small group activity planned using an intentional teaching card. You then read another story, poem, or song from a Highlights Hello book with your younger children and ask the 3 or 4-year-olds to help the little ones with the Find It activity included. Since younger children tend to nap longer than the older children, you help the younger children go down for a nap first. This allows you to be able to conduct a read aloud with the older children, Colleen and Tyler, and share a story from Highlights High Five Bilingue using a strategy from the book conversation card before you help them settle down for a nap as well. As the children are all resting, you reflect on your observations from the morning. You notice that Amanda was saying me do quite often in the morning. So you then refer to the creative curriculum for family childcare daily resources, looking for stories, activities, songs, or chants that would encourage and provide opportunities for Amanda to do more things independently. As the children leave for the evening, you have rich and meaningful goodbyes with families because you've had such intentional, meaningful interactions with their children. And you've recently read Volume 1, Chapter 5, Partnering with Families, and have found some new strategies that you've implemented. Also, as part of your goodbye routine, you implement the social, emotional, intentional teaching card, Hellos and Goodbyes, which provides guidance for engaging all children and families. As you can see from this just brief example of what a day in the life might look like, these daily resources, along with the 3 foundational volumes, are used together to offer meaningful learning experiences for all children in your program. With a comprehensive collection of daily resources available at your fingertips, you'll be able to plan responsively for every time of day to ensure that your program provides the highest quality care and learning possible. So now we'd like to take a couple of minutes to answer some of the questions that were submitted throughout the webinar. So I'm going to take a minute and see questions that folks put into the question and answer box. And if you haven't already posted a question, feel free to put that in the question and answer box. So one of the questions someone asked is whether there were science teaching cards with the intentional teaching cards. So our intentional teaching cards, I mentioned there are 151 of them that come with the creative curriculum for family childcare. And they're organized when they come in the areas of social, emotional, physical, language, literacy, and mathematics. It's sort of how we just organize them within the box, honestly, of how they come and the notation for how they're named, but they cover all objectives for development and learning. So oftentimes those science standards that we're looking to address come through hands-on investigations and problem solving and predicting and testing our predictions. So absolutely, you will see those science objectives represented throughout many of the intentional teaching cards. There's some questions here around the dual language component of things. So as I mentioned, the curriculum right now is only available in English, with our Spanish version to be coming out very soon. But even within the English curriculum, you will receive all of the intentional teaching cards come in both English and Spanish, even in the English version. And that's really great for providers who maybe speak English but have children in their program who speak Spanish, and that they're working in a dual language partnership. I know when I was a teacher, I wasn't in family childcare, but in my program place, I had a volunteer who spoke Spanish that came in a couple of days a week, and that was a great resource to be able to share the experience with children in Spanish first before I then engaged children the second day in English, where they already had some context. So in the family childcare environment, it's perhaps something you could share with families or another teaching partner that you might have access to engage children first in Spanish and then in English. So in the English curriculum, the intentional teaching cards come in English and Spanish, as well as the Highlights High Five by Bilingue as a resource there. But coming this fall, we'll have the entire curriculum available in both English and Spanish, and some additional information on purchasing a bilingual set there. Some folks are asking questions. I think I'm interpreting this question correctly around that they've previously been trained on using the creative curriculum for family childcare. Is this the same? So Teaching Strategies has provided for many, many years a curriculum for family childcare, and that really existed within our foundation volumes. Historically, for family childcare, infants, toddlers, twos, preschool, we've always had the foundation volumes to support that. But what we've learned for each of those age groups is while the foundation volumes really provide that rich theory, research, and best practice, sometimes that can feel a little overwhelming and aspirational. I can read the foundation volume and say, gosh, this is what I want to be doing. This is a great idea. I'm motivated to implement this. But then when I actually get to Monday, it's hard sometimes to know what song to sing, what book to read, what open-ended question to ask. So that's why we've included now all of the daily resources, because it's what actually helps you as the provider implement all of that theory and best practice into your daily plans and your daily interactions with children. So I would say if you've historically already used the foundation volumes for family childcare, you won't see that there's any drastic changes in that curricular framework, right? We're still rooted on a rich research foundation. We're still organizing that information in a way that talks about caring and teaching, partnering with families, looking at our learning environment, knowing what children are learning at the particular ages that we support. But what you are going to find is updated with the latest research, the inclusion of daily resources, as well as for the first time giving family childcare providers visibility to our 38 objectives for development and learning with those progressions birth through third grade. Yeah, so then there's some other questions here coming up around assessment and evaluation tools. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the 38 objectives for development and learning that are at the core of the creative curriculum for family childcare are the exact same 38 objectives that are at the core of Gold by Teaching Strategies. So those of you that have logged onto this webinar, we have your contact information. We'll be sending out some follow-up information around the archive. Those of you that are specifically requesting additional information about assessment, we'll absolutely have someone from the Teaching Strategies team reach out to you to share some information. Gold is our formative ongoing assessment solution that allows you to build digital portfolios, to gather information about children's development and learning across all of the objectives, and also provide some really rich opportunities for sharing that information with families in ways that's approachable and meaningful. So those of you that are looking for support for assessment and you're already using the creative curriculum, Gold is a great win, right? Gold can be used with any developmentally appropriate curriculum. The creative curriculum can be used with any developmentally appropriate assessment, but we absolutely see the most statistically significant positive results out of programs that use the two together. And Gold can be used for children ages birth through third grade. So someone was asking that question. So I think it's a really valuable resources for family childcare, where you may have for the majority of your day these infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, but then you may have a kindergarten or a first grade age child that you pick up after school and have for a couple of hours in the afternoon and evening. Having something like Gold will give you visibility into what are the research-based, widely held expectations that will support their development. And then I see here, there's one more question here around professional development. We absolutely provide a wide range of professional developments for programs, from online professional development, where we have access through My Teaching Strategies for teachers to be able to participate in 10-hour CEU-bearing courses where they can, at their own pace and on their own time. I think it's very valuable for family childcare providers who struggle with we don't have that planning time in the day as a family childcare provider. That online professional development will allow you on your own time to be able to log on and take 10 hours of really content-rich professional development related to the implementation of family childcare. So we will have 2 courses related to family childcare to be available a little bit later this summer. One focused on really digging into the foundational information and the framework that we talked about earlier, and then a separate 10-hour course really focused on the use of the daily resources and helping to support your planning there. So the online courses is one option. We also have face-to-face professional development where we have close to 100 trainers across the country who can come out and work with you or several family childcare providers. With family childcare, we've seen a lot of success with multiple providers pooling together to attend professional development is almost like a learning cohort. Donna Fowler, who's the president of NAFCC, is actually on my team, and she's one of our regional PD managers. She is very integral to helping us create this comprehensive solution, but also drives our initiatives for face-to-face professional development and helping to support what that looks like to meet the unique needs of family childcare providers. So we've got a wide spectrum of professional development to support. Then someone's also asking a question around training for center-based programs. What I've just kind of outlined there of having online professional development resources as well as face-to-face, that translate across all of our solutions. So there's options for online professional development for all of our solutions as well as our solutions for assessment as well. And then some other folks are asking questions around kind of getting some additional support for booking some of this professional development or some conversations around cost and kind of next steps. So we'll take your information and absolutely have someone from our team who's local to your area reach out to you to discuss next steps. And then one person's asking a webinar soon to talk about preschool curriculum. So I know I'm delivering another webinar later this week for our new solution for kindergarten. I don't think we have a preschool webinar. I'm looking at my colleague, Rebecca, who's the boss of me in webinars, to see. I don't believe we have a preschool webinar on the schedule, but on our YouTube page, if you go to Teaching Strategies and click on our YouTube icon, it will take you to all of our archived webinars, and there have been some in the past year or so that I've delivered around preschool that might be helpful. There's some that are directly related to just kind of introducing the solutions, but then also they get a little bit more specific around individualizing instruction or some of those other components. And there's also an events webinar page on our website, and that will give access to archived presentations there as well. All right. So it looks like that's it for our questions. I wanted to thank you so much. As you mentioned earlier on in the call, time is something that is incredibly valuable to all early childhood educators, but I think even more specifically for our family child care providers. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon. Again, know that an archived version of this webinar will be sent to you in the coming days in case you want to revisit any of it. And we'll leave the question and answer box up for another minute or two. If there are any other additional questions you have, we'll ensure that someone from the Teaching Strategies team reaches out to you to get you the answers that you need. Thank you very much.